Dun 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 dun. Dun dun dun. Hey everybody, this is TruePowerIsMine and this is TPIMSRLIve. I got an emergency show to do for you all today. A lot of things are going on. A lot of people already know in their particular state, martial law is coming. Your state is already locked down, I'm sure. You would know what I'm saying. This information comes to me from a very trusted source. Brothers and sisters, we are on the doorstep of their plan. Brother Leonard, Brother Willard, welcome to the show. Oh, baby. Oh, I have to protect them best I can. Tate, peace and power. Welcome to the show. Hold on.
Right.
Hold on, y'all. Oh, let me get this bigger. Hold on. Theater mode. Gotcha. All right. I'll try to fix the camera angle just a little bit better if I can, yeah. All right. Listen up. Extremely important. There's other stuff to show you as well. Thank you to all the people who's listening and sharing the show. Brother Shannon, peace and power.
You can see in this graph here its impact on oxygen. All the frequencies before 60 gig are non-impacted.
Hold on.
Human body and all biology in general, like bees, key to our food chain. Wouldn't you think that the study of the very fields that have been exponentially increased upon all of us would be something that these groups would be funding? You would think, but they're not. Anyway, I digress. So the impacts of 60 gigahertz are not widely published information, but here's what I can tell you. And it's in part, ironically, from the promotional material of the big telecom companies themselves. Here it says 60 gigahertz has a very distinct impact on none other than oxygen itself.
And you have an impact on oxygen itself. The first organ that will really be devastated by that fact will be what? Your brain. It will be your brain. Oh, they're going to make you think it's your lungs, your heart, blah, blah. It's your brain. It's being robbed of oxygen. Don't forget, all molecular atomic bonds are held by energies or frequencies. That's a key thing to understand and comprehend. Let's continue. Quickly.
Yes, here are the articles released by companies who are touting the benefits of 60 gigahertz. They openly admit that 60 gigahertz is absorbable by oxygen. You can see in this graph here its impact on oxygen. All the frequencies before 60 gig are non-impacted. Then once it hits that frequency, it spikes and becomes hugely absorbed by oxygen. Now, in this article by the companies selling products that are going to run on 60 gig, they say that it's going to help its interference levels. Oh, isn't that nice? They don't want your first shooter video games to lag. And most of us know from mainstream releases promoting FIVEG that things like water and trees are going to get in the way of this frequency. So how in the world does this even make sense that we are using it?
It makes sense if you have a targeted population and you want to exterminate them. Now, one or two things is going to happen here. One, people are going to wake up and go and do the righteous thing, which is reparations for Black folks in America and throughout the world. Rebuke the men and women who work on such monstrous projects because they have quite literal hate and fear in their hearts. They have hate for us and fear that we'll rise up and kick their ass. That's what this is ultimately about. All the people who have gone to their grave from these wars, from these pop-up sicknesses, they are all going to their graves because someone fears us. And they hate us. And they will not endorse reparations or justice for us. She's blowing the whistles because she's scared to die. Those of you who know the Most High, those of you who know spirituality, those who have a afterlife insurance policy, you understand what I'm saying. For those of us who do not worship anything but ourselves and our so-called intellect, death is a very scary proposition. But those of us who have learned higher frequency of thinking, who have learned our spiritual truth, realize death is just a doorway, and this life is what tempers you to walk through that doorway. As above, so too below. Let's continue.
Unless their intentions are something else besides faster speeds. Anyway, knowing that this frequency impacts oxygen, now does it make sense to you how possibly when you mess with the absorption of oxygen in the human body, let me give you one guess which organ is going to suffer first. The way that the 60 gigahertz impacts oxygen is this. Oxygen, the atom, is O. Oxygen, the molecule, is O2. Two atoms together. Now, these two atoms creating the oxygen molecule are sharing some electrons. 60 gigahertz causes the electrons surrounding oxygen molecules to spin. Right. Somewhat akin to how high-powered microwaves running on 2.4 are impacting molecules in foods such as water. They're heating in part by impacting those molecules to rotate or oscillate with each wave. The movement energy from the rotation of the super tiny water molecules is actually helping to heat the rest of the food. So in a similar way that 2.4 causes H2O to oscillate, 60 gigahertz, even at lower powers, is causing the electrons on oxygen molecules to spin. And as you might imagine, changes to the spin frequencies on oxygen electrons can have impacts on human biology. When you breathe in, the reason that breathing air into your lungs gets oxygen into your blood and therefore in important places like your brain is because the oxygen entering into your lungs gets picked up by a very important iron-containing protein called hemoglobin in your blood. But the unfortunate impact of oxygen molecules spinning the electrons is that it makes the hemoglobin unable to uptake the oxygen and get it to the rest of your body.
There's the technical term. That's the technical term. What she is describing is you quite literally being strangled or robbed of oxygen because we're essentially creating a huge microwave situation so that, right, that you can play your first person shooter game. So you can pretend to kill human beings or zombies, animals, whatever the destruction nature of your personality is. It's the complete circle. It's the complete circle of death. You living in a culture of death, you're worshiping gods of the culture of death, and you buying and consuming products conjured up. And I use that word specifically to evoke a thought. It is conjured up by the new wizards and Megs, which are scientists. Let's continue.
Now, this info was taken from a textbook called Magnetobiology, Underlying Physical Problems. But even beyond this, isn't the fact that the telecom companies are admitting that 60 gigahertz is absorbable by oxygen just stunning information? And shouldn't the fact that 60 gigahertz even fundamentally interacts with oxygen, the most abundant and arguably most important element to all of biological life, be headline news that stops everything until we deeply test the implications of that? If you believe that they must have already tested 60 gigahertz for health and safety, please listen very carefully to what Big Telecom admits when they were...
Stop. Brother Al, right there. Perhaps if we make Brother Al and Matt, he'll continue to join us more often. But he's absolutely right. Next year, or no, I think 2022, CERN is coming back online. But many of you peasants will already be off this earth. Worry, fear not. Fear not. The plan that has been in motion is finally accelerating. We're going to have people who are going to call for the most draconian efforts to stop this man-made scourge. I'm not going to say what it is. You all know what it is, because I don't want this video to be dinged and binged by YouTube. They already shut down some of my videos. But the truth and the light has to shine in this most certainly darkened time. You guys may know that your senators are dumping their stocks. Oh, the economy's going to snap. Your senators are dumping their stocks. So while you sit there and hoard toilet paper, or while you sit there and think that this is just a game, it's just a joke, it's just a hoax, the rich are on the move. Look at all your little actors. Most of the productions have stopped. They're going into hiding. Also, by the way, please, those of you who pray for Brother Wesley Snipes. He's over in Europe right now. Pray for him. He's a good man. And hopefully, if he survives, we can get him on the show if the show continues. And if they don't shut down the internet within the next 8 days. I mean, shouldn't have said that. Had a conversation with Paul Hellner yesterday, folks. I asked Paul about contemporary problems. He gave me the answer, I thought. And for many of you who saw that interview, you know, Paul said that he was in communion with the Federation, Intergalactic Federation of, I guess, kinder aliens. And I asked him, could they potentially help? And he said they might. There is no help coming except for from the Most High. None of the creations in the whole universe is going to help us except the Most High. Let's continue.
Asked that very question.
5G, as you well know, also uses higher frequency waves that don't travel as far and will rely on a network of hundreds of thousands, potentially millions of small cell sites. And the question then is, are there any health implications, any public safety implications? So my question for you, particularly
Brown, welcome to the show. Peace and power. Thank you for joining us.
Mr. Gillen and Mr. Berry.
Thank you, Senator. I think, thank you for your focus on the issue. Safety is paramount, and as you alluded to, we rely on the expert agencies, we rely on the findings of the FDA and others as to the requirements to keep all of us safe. There are no industry-backed studies, to my knowledge, right now. Happy to visit with you as to what opportunities you think there needs to be more studies, and we're always for more science. We also rely on what the scientists tell us.
So essentially, the answer to my question, how much money? Zero.
I can certainly follow up with you, Senator. To my knowledge, there's no active studies being backed by industry today.
Anybody else know of industry commitments to back research, fund it, support it, to ascertain scientifically the health effect?
No, I'm not aware of any.
So there really is no research ongoing. We're kind of flying blind here so far as health and safety is concerned. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Is this all starting to make sense? What they are calling the CV is acute respiratory disease. And while you can't believe 100% anything coming out of China, it seems to me there were enough leaks of people suddenly falling over in the streets that the CH government doesn't want people talking about or sharing with no other apparent illness. Guys, listen, CV is not new, okay? It's a cold, it's a flu. That's why it says on the side of hand sanitizers like Purell and the side of a can of Lysol that it kills it. It's common enough to be listed on the most common disinfectants. But now The CH government is admitting that people can have virtually no symptoms and suddenly fall over. No symptoms, but then they can still have it. What is it? Lack of oxygen can do that too, right? I mean, let's use common sense here. What happens to you when you have the flu, right? You start to feel bad, achy, you call in sick, you don't want to go outside, you go to lay down in bed, mama brings you some chicken noodle soup, right? Or you just bopping around fully clothed, doing normal things and fall over. If your lungs are not able to put oxygen in your blood, how long would it take you to fall over? Not long, okay? Not long. So we're going to get into some specific symptomology besides these that I just mentioned in a minute, but I can already hear some of you asking, but Dana, what about those quarantine cruise ships? They weren't even in the city of WHAN. That's very true. And I have some very relevant news for you on that topic. These ships that were quarantined just so happened to be from the Diamond Princess line of cruise ships. So let's check out this PR release from Princess Cruises. Continuing Princess Cruises comeback new promise, a commitment focused on investing more than $450 million across the global fleet. Now here they go into some of these very expensive upgrades that they have added. Well, one of the upgrades that they go into great detail explaining on their website with high-end marketing videos showing exactly how it works is their network connectivity. Here's from their press release. Carnival Corporation and Regal Princess announces they will, quote, establish a new industry apex in connectivity capabilities. It says, using its newly developed connectivity service, MedallionNet, and working with SES networks. More about them in a minute. They talk about attempting to achieve unheard of bandwidth and how MedallionNet is made possible through, quote, an inventive array of an antenna, networks, equipment, and configuration innovations that combine to make the Regal Princess the only vessel on the planet that is currently capable of achieving this speed. Well, according to the SES website, there are some Navy ships that can do this, powered by our O3B fleet of MEO or medium Earth orbit satellites. Yes, they are admitting to working with SES, and although they're calling it Wi-Fi, that is a misnomer considering that the company seems to be using millimeter waves. Here are a few clips from some of their videos.
Stream movies, shows, and sports, as well as make Wi-Fi phone calls and video conference calls like FaceTime. That's all possible in large part thanks to what lies on board, what flies in the skies above, and the way we fuse all the technology together to ensure your experience is as great as possible. MedallionNet uses mid-Earth orbit satellites, or MEO, that are positioned 8,000 kilometers away. There are 20 MEO satellites surrounding the equator that see our Medallion-class ships, which aligns with destinations like London and Vancouver, and which corresponds to approximately 80% of Earth's surface. GEO satellites actually still reign supreme when enabling connectivity in the polar regions. This is because GEO is not impacted by rain and weather. So onboard Princess Cruises ships that feature MedallionNet, we leverage MEO and GEO satellites to keep you connected to the things you love most, and seamlessly shift to GEO when in the north.
I also want to remind you, when I had Thomas Aldhouse on, he told us they have devices they can point at you. Active, passive active denial, basically the microwave beacon on a Humvee, but they got other directed energy weapons. This is what we're talking about, y'all. People are going to die. I have been saying this for the past 3 years. I've also been praying for the past 3 years. I'm wrong. Somehow the guests are or ill-informed. Somehow, some way, the people who are governing us all are not this cruel. But those prayers were in vain. The people who are governing us are that cruel. The international banking houses and families are that cruel. The political puppets that are installed in regimes from country or corporations to corporations, which are so-called nations, are that corrupt. It's up to us. It's up to humanity to unite and seize our victory. If not, then we have just doomed future generations to technological enslavement by these Luciferian fucks. That's what's going down. Let's continue.
Thanks, GL. In these tougher conditions, we're glad you're there.
So by admitting in their own video that water can interfere with the connectivity is the giveaway that they are using millimeter waves and not just the type of frequencies that Wi-Fi runs on today. Now, when you look a little more into this company, SES, that's when you find this crazy information. You can see they're presently teaming up with governments, including the U.S. government, and of course, our MILITARY. When you look at tabs like this one that starts intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance missions, one realizes this company's products and services catalog looks like a homeland security dream or privacy lover's nightmare, depending on how you want to see it. And here you can also see on the SES website that they are using these satellites to beam none other than what? 5G. So, are these passengers getting sick from a VIRUS? That, by the way, they are admitting that the people on the ship haven't been tested for, or are they getting sick from millimeter wave frequencies being beamed at them even while they sit trapped in quarantine? Wow. All right. So what about all those other cities? Other cities that people have left CH4 and still got their CV virus? Well, I mean, the ones that I'm not watching this every minute. I've been working too hard on this piece, but all the cities that I found that supposedly have this, this has happened to so far, they are people who are already openly advertising that they have FIVEG themselves. Places like South Korea, check, Hong Kong, check. And then to further your questioning about what Central CH is actually dealing with besides the VIRUS, there was that news released in several alternative sources and some even mainstream in 2018-19 announcing that CH had completed construction of a project to build a giant antenna that was 5 times the size of New York City. Do you remember that? It said this experimental radio antenna is rumored to have taken 13 years to finish, and although its official purpose was, quote, to detect earthquakes and minerals, others speculate it would be used to communicate with submarines. While the article states the exact site of the facility has not been disclosed, but information in Chinese research journals suggests it was in the Huazhong region. Oh, just so happens to include Wuhan, the capital of the Hubei province. There you go. So there's that. But, let's get deeper into what 60 gigahertz can also do. Now, this was an interesting paper released by one specific hospital in WHAN, and this doctor with this YouTube channel, he was going over them in great detail. A lot of people have a lot of attention on this, but unfortunately, they're not looking at it through the eyes of the FIVEG that I'm sharing with you now. And so a lot of things to him don't make sense. But when you look at it knowing this, it all fits together rather perfectly. Of the people admitted and studied in this particular hospital, they got real specific about the symptoms. And so they broke it down from outpatient to those admitted into ICU. And of the people admitted into intensive care, it says this: over 60% of people had acute respiratory distress, respiratory failure. Symptoms included shortness of breath, rapid breathing, and bluish skin tone. Can that happen with lack of oxygen? Yeah. They had arrhythmia. I don't know how much you guys remember, but microwave frequencies can absolutely cause this. He couldn't explain it with his normal background. There was also shock. That is a state of insufficient blood flow to the tissues as a result of problems with the circulatory system. Now, of all the muscles that work really hard, wouldn't you say your heart is one of them? So when you start running, you start breathing hard. Why? Your muscles need more oxygen to continue working, right? Now, if you're not getting that into your muscles because it isn't coming into your hemoglobin, there's no feeding your muscles, including your heart, thus, right, acute cardiac injury, which is also listed in this. Now, while it's true, pneumonia also causes respiratory distress and an inability to get proper oxygen. That's true. However, don't we all know by now that pneumonia causes your lungs to do one basic thing? Fill with fluid, fill with phlegm. Yummy. Almost every 101 tutorial on pneumonia says the same thing. The main problems with pneumonia are the lack of oxygen as a result of phlegm. And how you can even tell what phase of pneumonia you're in according to the color of your phlegm. Well, check this out. Now, much of what I'm finding regarding this CV is pointing to people who don't actually have fluid in their lungs at all, but they have dry coughs. Not wet coughs like this, but dry coughs with no phlegm. So in the same report, this doctor found the same thing, dry cough. But also these social leaks of media, people who are using social media, they're so desperate. They're desperate to get help. Here they're saying the same thing. Look at this, inability to breathe and dry cough. So please, would one of you virologists care to explain to me why these people have respiratory distress, aka can't breathe, if there's no phlegm causing the problems with oxygen uptake? I mean, besides the 60 gigahertz frequency making hemoglobin unable to properly bind to oxygen. Now, a lot of people had scans. Scans are showing that people have damage to the lungs. But how do we know that this isn't due to other repercussions of millimeter waves on oxygen itself? I mean, when your voice, this is slightly off topic, but not really. When your voice matches a frequency of a crystal glass, it becomes absorbed by, and it shatters, right? I'm just saying, why am I having to ask these questions? Also, it's mentioned, acute kidney injury. We know kidneys can be damaged when there's so little oxygen in the blood that the other gases become higher, like carbon dioxide and the other ones. Acidosis of the blood happens. Again, guys, I'm not a doctor. Do not listen to anything I say. This is for entertainment purposes only. However, I'm just trying to use common sense here and ask some questions that no one else seems to be asking. So, CV seems to cause many problems, okay? They can all be tied to a lack of oxygen and acidosis of the blood. Now, we know that the impacts of magnetic frequencies can have a result of things like seizures, right? How often do people with pneumonia have seizures? But we have seen tons of leaked footage of people with exactly that, seizures. I've also heard fungal infections mentioned in relation to this, and electromagnetic fields can absolutely exacerbate fungus and mold. Now, of course, people talk about fevers in the media, but they also say they can have all these problems without the fever. How many times have you had flu without the fever? I'm just saying. But along with this theory I'm sharing, wouldn't it make sense, given the possibility of a frequency WEAPON? How do we know if a mild fever can't also be a result of all these other aspects of 60 gigahertz? The answer is we don't know. We don't know. And I don't want to belabor this, but please, could someone out there who actually knows magnetobiology and who's not employed by the WHO or a big pharma company get on this? Because I'm not qualified. If you're really starting to take all of this in, everything that I'm saying, and you're starting to consider this as a possibility, your mind may start to spin with the major implications, and it should.
I know none of you guys' minds are spinning because all you listeners already know basically what she's talking about. We've done shows on 5G. We've done shows about government conspiracies, and we've done shows that has demonstrated through history how major wars and conflicts have been started by the oligarchs so that they can retain or, basically retain their power. These folks that we're dealing with are not ideological other than the fact that they seek power and death. They have no higher calling. They are the scourge of humanity. They are indeed the fungus among us. And until we realize this, then we're destined to be victims of it. I'm going to jump over here and show you the news. This is for the international crowd that might not get this. They might not have shut down. The great state of Illinois to announce shelter-in-place order. That's basically martial law. Fed begins pumping municipal bonds. California more likely, or more than half will be infected. Statewide lockdown. Jobless claims to reach over 2 million next week. Hold on. Virus killing far more men than women. Dow tumbles 900 points. Gun sales spike. Gathering bans raises religious freedom questions. There is no freedom, peasant. The play's out there. You're going to play ball or you're going to be exterminated. Well, even if you play ball, honestly, you're still going to be exterminated. Life in a bubble. Como orders state lockdown. Goldman Sachs predicts negative 24% GDP, gross domestic product. Who warned system collapsing? And that ain't Doctor Who, folks. MW, peace and power. With low test rates, bugs spreading in shadows. You know, you should all pull up a map. Well, let's do it for those who might not want to do this. Maps of 5G. No, hold on. I got a better one. Global 5G map. Now let's see. Well, looky there. Hold on. Hopefully that's in the images. Well, look at that. Here's a map of the 5G. Well, when you look at the coronavirus, that's the only place affected in Africa and up here in the Middle East, India, China. Is really where 5G's rolled out. All right. Now, remember this map in your head, kiddos. Let's jump over here. Let's go to the corona map. Now, you just saw the map of the 5G rollout. Let's look at the map of the coronavirus. I can pull up one of my older ones on the computer, but it might take a little too long. I might have to expand this so I can actually, so we can get a better view of the map. Yeah. It's almost 300,000 is what they're saying. Oh, goodness grief. Come on. And this is Charter Internet, yeah. The shittiest internet company in the world. They charge you the max and they deliver bullshit speeds. Maybe 5G is what we need here. You know, this isn't a first-person shooter, but it is a live fucking show. You see the things working. Oh my gosh. Come on, Corona map. Once again, you can already tell this is going to be Africa. I don't understand why they're using this particular map too. Greenland is not this big, folks. But they're doing this on purpose. Oh, look at that. Look at that map. All right. Here's Africa as a foothold. There's the big circle. There's the Corona map. Hold on. Nah, that ain't gonna work. I'm just gonna have to pull it over. Pull it up. Look at this. This area, United States. Look at Mexico, kind of no 5G. The heart of Africa, no 5G. The tip of Africa, 5G. All right. Now let's look at coronavirus map yet again. Oh, look. South Africa, where the 5G's at. Bam, bam, bam. Once again, folks, this isn't rocket science. I did not bust into the CIA, NSA, DOD, ONI. I didn't bust into none of their secret computer files or networks to bring you this information. This is all out here on the web. But yet people want to act as if this is so secret. They're letting you know. They're letting you know. All right. Let's go. Let's continue down on the news. Hold on. All right. Hold on. I want to get to that one story. Goldman Sachs, get ready, blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. All right. It's good. Wildlife is returning. Oh, by the way, Bloomberg is firing his staff that he said he was going to keep on till November. So he's a liar. He will not keep his word. As if that should be a shock. Hold on. Okay. Let me end this real quick. I want to end this. Just do the map search for yourself. Hold on. U.S. senators dumping their stock because of Corona. One day ago, senators dumped up to 1.7 million of stock after reassuring public about Corona. Right here. Senators sold off their stocks ahead of a Corona economic probably disaster. That was 8 hours ago. Okay. 8 hours ago. This is information's hot and fresh. It's like a piping hot linguine. Yeah, this is a hot. I mean, come on, y'all. The rats are about to leave the ship. While warning donors, but reassuring the public. That's the Republican Party's motto. They're letting their buddies know, get your shit out of the market because the market's fixing to crash. Listen, you don't got to worry about getting toilet paper or any other damn thing on the shelves when the peasants who are supposed to be working in the fucking factories are sick. This is what's happening. This is what's coming. They're fixing to lock down this whole damn country. They can even shut off the internet. Please, if you can, record these shows for posterity. If you're really bored and you want something to do, write these shows down, transcribe them into written form, and put them somewhere safe. Folks, all I want to tell you is that, hold on, let's look at this right here. Hopefully this let's see what this clown's talking about. In our hands. It stops being funny. Several U.S. senators. Here, I'm posting a link in the chat room. Copy. I'm posting this link in the chat room. Several U.S. senators sold off significant amounts. Hold on. In stocks. I don't understand why. Let's hear this violin, I guess. Oh no. Now my connection's unstable. Hold on, I gotta exit off this page. YouTube just sent me, in other words, check out that for yourself, y'all. All right. Archbishop. This is the time to get into our personal prayer lives. We need time to absorb all this. We need time to absorb oxygen. But we're not going to get that time thanks to 50 or 60 millihertz. African busiest airport says foreigners can't disembark. If you're in Kemet, you're stuck. From plague to corona, French Brotherhood keeps burying the dead. It's really getting nasty, y'all. And to show you how sick and twisted the culture of death truly is, sex robot firms selling antibacterial dolls for self-isolation. That is truly sick and twisted. In a time like this, if you cannot suppress your sexual desires or needs to focus on what you need to survive, then you deserve to die. I'm sorry. Now is not the time for love making and all that. Now is the time for strategizing and making sure that you and your family's safe. Now it's the time to start reaching out to your personal network and ensuring that you have backup when the time comes. When the cell phones are disconnected, the landlines are severed, and the internet is shut off, you have to be able to communicate with your network and organize and make movements accordingly. All right? So now, as cops are out there pulling over stolen trailers full of toilet paper, out of control teens are coughing on groceries, and people who are in self-quarantine are being shamed on social media by knuckleheads and trolls. Your safety is your business. And if you do not take care of your business, you will not be safe. If you do not get at the bare minimum, a handful of life straws, and maybe some thermal blankets, because you may have to leave your cozy. In fact, let me show you a good site to go and get such items. Bud K. Let's see. Now, I'm not affiliated with Bud K. I buy a couple things from them from time to time. They do not sponsor the show. They do not sponsor the program in any way, shape, or form. All right. So I don't want them to be like, oh my God, this show sponsored it. No. None of that. All right. But this is the type of stuff you'll find on Bud K. That right there is essential. Everyone should have an axe. Hold on. I'll allow Bud K. All right. Even a taser device, non-lethal purposes or interrogation. Crossbows, they're okay. All right. But let's go and let me show you. I just wanted to show you kind of the setup of the page. Okay. Then you go up here to shop. I suggest you go to where's their clearance? They used to have a clearance tab up here. Closeout. Go out to closeout where it says 70 out. All right. Those are handy. And they're not that expensive. $40 and get you a solar charger that can charge your little device. Even if it doesn't work, you can have maps on your phone. You can have recipes and elixirs and herbs in different areas on your phone. Stop using your phone for communication and use it for a lifeline for survival. All right. You can get these solar power units, backpacks, decent. All right. Lantern. You want cordage. And these clips, essential. All right. Hold on. I want to see if they have the life straw or water straws. Okay, hold on. Compass is still very important. If you don't know how to use a compass, look up YouTube on how to use it. In fact, I might just do that right now, just so that you guys don't have to do shit but watch the show. I'll do it for you. I'll do that shit for you. In fact, it's too important. I want this how to use a compass video. This is extremely important. What good is having maps? What's good is having maps if you don't know how to read a compass?
A compass is part of the 10 essentials, and most people take one with them into the mountains. But how in the world does it work? Luckily, it isn't too hard to use your compass. And when paired with a good map and a bit of know-how, it becomes a powerful tool for navigation. In this video, we're going to cover the essential parts of the compass, how to set up your compass to account for the declination for your region, how to take a bearing from a map to find an object in the field, and how to take a bearing in the field to find yourself on a map. All right, it's going to be hard to talk about how to use the compass without first understanding what all the different parts are for. So let's go through that real quick. This is the base plate. It's clear, so you can see the map below it. And there's always at least one straight edge that you'll use later for taking bearings. On the side, there are rulers that you can use along with your map scale to help you calculate distance.
On top, you'll find a direction of travel arrow to remind you which direction to point the compass when you're taking a bearing. This big circle is the rotating bezel, which is marked with degrees from 0 clockwise up to 360. Above the bezel is a little marker called the index line, which marks where you'll read your bearings. Inside the bezel, the first thing you'll notice is the magnetized needle, which always points to the magnetic North Pole, not the true North Pole. We'll get into the difference in a minute. There's also a big arrow called the orienting arrow, which you'll use to help you orient the bezel. Alongside the orienting arrow are orienting lines that you'll use to help you line up the compass with north on a map. Finally, some compasses have a handy declination scale, which makes it easier to adjust declination. What's declination, you ask? Well, declination is the angle difference between true north and magnetic north. The needle in your compass will only point to magnetic north, so right now it's pointing to somewhere in northern Canada, not Santa's workshop. If you don't adjust your compass to account for the difference between magnetic north and true north, it can really mess up your navigation. Depending on where you are in the country, the declination will be a certain number of degrees to either the west or the east. You can find the direction and number of degrees in the declination diagram near the legend, along with the date of the map's most recent revision. If your map hasn't been revised for several years, it's worth looking up the current declination online. Different compass brands set declination in different ways, and once you know the declination for your region, you can put that information into your compass. When you do, and the needle lines up inside the orienting arrow, the north marker on the bezel will point to true north. This map of the Lake Tahoe area has a declination of 14 degrees east, and it was updated very recently. So we need to move the orienting arrow 14 degrees to the east. Now that the declination is set, you can start using your compass with your map. First off, a bearing describes a direction in terms of degrees. Bearings are way more precise than just saying go east or west. Instead, you can say to get to the lake, follow a bearing of 79 degrees. One of the most common ways to use a bearing is when you're out hiking and you want to head to a specific point, like a peak or your campsite. If you know where you are on a map, it's a simple process. Start by finding your current location on the map. Let's say we're here. Now set your compass on the map so that the straight side of the base plate lines up with your position. Next, find the point you want to head toward. Let's say it's this peak. And rotate the entire compass until it forms a line between your position and your destination. Make sure the direction of travel arrow is pointing in the direction of the peak. Once the compass is in position, rotate the bezel until the orienting lines are lined up with north and south on the map. You can use the edge of the map to help you get the line's position just right. Remember to make sure that the north marker on the bezel is pointing to north on the map and not south. Okay, once the orienting lines are running north-south, look at the index line to read the bearing you've just captured. Here, it's 188. Congrats! Now you can use the compass to follow the bearing. Hold the compass in front of you with the direction of travel arrow pointing away from you. Now rotate your whole body until the north side of the magnetized needle is inside the orienting arrow. If it helps, you can remember red in the shed. Once you've got red in the shed, you're facing the bearing of 188 and your destination. If you're out hiking and you want to find your location on a map, you can also take a bearing off a landmark near you. Then you can transfer that bearing to your map and figure out where you are. Start by finding a landmark that you can also identify on your map. Hold your compass up with the direction of travel arrow pointing away from you and directly at the landmark. Now keep the compass flat and rotate the bezel until the magnetized needle is inside the orienting arrow, or red is in the shed. Once the needle is in, you've captured the bearing. A compass with a sighting mirror makes it easy to take very accurate bearings. Hold the compass at eye level and point it at the object. Then tilt the mirror until you can see straight down into the bezel. This way you can see the object and the bezel at the same time. Once you've got the bearing, you can transfer it to the map. Lay your compass on the map and line up its edge with a known landmark. Make sure that the direction of travel arrow is pointing in the direction of the landmark. With the edge of the compass lined up against the object, rotate the entire base plate until the orienting lines are running north-south and the north marker on the bezel is pointing to north on the map. Once you've finished, you can draw a line on the map along the edge of your compass. You are somewhere along this line. If you want to find your exact position, you use a process called triangulation. All you have to do is take another bearing, but with a different object that's at least 60 degrees away from the first. Where the two lines intersect is your position. If you take a third bearing, you'll end up with a little triangle, and the smaller the triangle, the more accurate the reading. Compass skills can be daunting at first, but they get way easier with practice. Watch the video a few times to get familiar with the techniques, and then test them out on your favorite trail. And for more practice and a deeper dive into navigation, click here.
That is for those who intend to survive, who intend to move about the land for humanity and continue on. Hold on. I want to find something, and this is extremely important. Let's just go here. Life straws. Damn, they went up. Damn, they went up. All right. This product here is essential. For 50 bucks, 3 of them, 1 of them. They used to be way more inexpensive than this, but it is what it is now. All right. But you literally, oh, okay, hold on. How to use a life straw video.
Filters a minimum of 1,000 liters, which is 264 gallons. This is equivalent to a year of clean drinking water. Light straw works especially well in silty and muddy water, as the membranes filter out particulate matter. The flow rate is quite high. It's like drinking through a thick straw. The light straw removes bacteria and protozoa, but will not remove chemicals, heavy metals, or viruses. That said, these contaminants are extremely rare in the backcountry of North America. To use light straw, you can simply insert it into your water source.
Stop. What did he just say? Hold on. Hold on.
Rare in the backcountry of North America. To use light straw, that said, will not remove a thick straw. The light straw removes bacteria and protozoa, but will not remove chemicals, heavy metals, or viruses.
All right. Sorry for leading you guys down the wrong. Life straws are useless. You're going to have to get an old metal tea kettle and a fire, and you're going to have to boil water. I'm so sorry. You're going to have to boil water. That's your best bet. You know, fuck the life straws. Fuck spending your $40. Or fuck it. Get a old time either pot or tea kettle. Put it in your backpack or with your gear, and you're going to have to boil water. That's just what it is. Because I'm fearful that there's toxins already in the water. Smoke less. Welcome to the show. Peace and power. Oh, I'm so sorry, Al. Damn. But you know, there's other stuff that you'll need. Backpack, a good tree saw, thermal blankets. Let's look that up real quick for pricing. Solar blankets. These are still relatively inexpensive, and you'll need this. A couple things you can do with this. A buddy of mine that's in the service said that you can actually, if you're diligent enough, line your clothing, the inside of your clothing with this material, and it helps you not show up on infrared scanners, which could be useful when you're trying to maneuver at night or maneuver around certain obstacles, okay? Thermal blankets, tea kettle. We're going to have to go back to old school, all right? Hopefully today's show has given you something to think about. This will conclude TPIMSRLIVE for today. Be mindful of your chatting, what you choose to post on your social media Please don't blow your cover, brother or sister, especially you young ones. Now, us older ones, we're done. But you younger ones, please absorb this knowledge I'm giving you and use it to fight the system once we are all gone. With that being said, live your life of integrity without hate, envy, or greed. And as always, brothers and sisters, please, 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 let's try to be kinder to each other. Peace and power, unity and victory, dignity and respect. Liberation. I'm out.